Hello, musician. Audio. Hello? I think you can hear me. Please, if you can hear me, just type in the chat section. Accepte. Oops. Good evening, everyone. Please, if you can hear me, type something in the chat. I'm accepting you one by one. I should have followed a quicker and smarter way of inviting students. I think I sent you an email. Check the email, please. I can see, yeah, call clear on my hand. Yes, I can hear you, sir. Thanks. Okay, good. Very good. Yeah, I'm accepting everyone. I should show you what is going on. So look here. Whenever someone is getting in, I have to click on accept. I see you. Otherwise, if you, yeah, you have deactivated your camera. You have no problem appearing on. I don't know. Can you activate your mic? Alwash, Mr. Alwash, just to check. Participants. Just a minute, I will check. Yes, I can hear you now.
I'm here.
So, is this your first? Like, yeah, good. I can hear. Who is speaking? Uzeni. All right. So I would just check if everyone is able to hear me. Accepted. Tout accepté. Okay, tout accepté. Next time I will try to use a quicker way of adding people to the meeting. So I will ask each of you to deactivate your microphones, because if they are active all at the same time, there's going to be a lot of noise. So if anyone wants to ask a question or to say something, you just there is a button where you have raising your hand. Yeah, it's in here. Can you see it?
What? Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I will repeat can you please deactivate your microphones? Because when all microphones are active at the same time, there's going to be a mess. Can you hear me clearly? Yeah, Mariam Louzani, would you like to speak? Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Tout accepté. Okay. So everyone, make sure that if you don't want to appear on on the meeting, just deactivate your webcams. If you have no problem with that, then just keep it on. Okay. There are 30 people here. I don't know how much time we should wait. 30 people. Can we start, or should we wait a little more? I don't know who suggested we do meetings in the evening. Is it you, Alwash? Please answer in the chat.
Where's the chat, sir?
It's on your right. Are you using the smartphone or the computer? Using your phone. I think it's below. It's at the bottom. You just yes. Just tap with your finger and yeah. Just tap with your finger. Yeah. 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 Okay. I can see you well. I don't know where you're hiding. Is it? You are in a corner. So okay. If you want to say anything, just use the chat. Everything better for me. Yes, the evening is better. Yeah, the evening is better. The afternoon is better. We will see. We will have an opinion poll about that, and we'll see what the majority wants. I don't know if you can see me on my webcam. I'm not sure about that. I think I deactivated it. I will try to video capture device. Okay. USB camera. Anyway, it's okay. What can you see now? You can see. Yeah, here is the presentation I used for the video of last year. I don't know if you have it. I'm not going to repeat what I said in the video because I think you can go back to the video and see everything there. Okay. For those who have just joined, please deactivate your microphones. Yes, good. So 35 people. Shall we start? If you informed about the class previously, like if it's scheduled. Yeah, but I told you it was at 8 p.m. Dina Abu Ayesh, hello. I informed you on the Google Classroom page, so this is how it's going to be in the future. You get the information on the about the timing, the scheduling, and the Google Classroom page, and then I send you the link immediately. The problem with Google Meet is that sometimes you have to refresh the session so that you can start the meeting, and we don't want this to happen. So immediately when I start the meeting, I send you the link on the Google Classroom page, and you can use the Classroom app, or you go to the browser, whatever browser you're using, and start joining the meeting from there. Is this the first time you use Google Meet? Please, in the chat, I would like your feedback. This is our first experience. Maybe it's going to take us a while to figure this out. Luckily, the webcam cannot show you the mess I am having here next to me. Yes, this is my third time. Oh, good. So you have, before I forget, you used Zoom. Okay. Well, I think Zoom is a bit more limited and less convenient for large groups. It might be better for short and for short sessions with small groups, but for large groups. Oh yeah, internet at this time is chaotic. But I don't know. Maybe we will see about that. We might have two sessions with each one with each section, but I prefer to have all people at the same time. So since we are here, I prefer to go quickly through the presentation I used for the video. You already have the video. You can go back to it if you have watched it already. I don't know. Even if you haven't, we are going to go back to the major points in the video. And if anyone would like to intervene by using the microphone, of course, you just ask in the chat or use the lever la main, raise hand icon in okay. So I don't know why my webcam is not working. I'm having an issue with it. Just a minute. Webcam, video, USB camera. Anyway, try to sort this problem out next time. Anyway, so as you have perhaps seen, we the dissertation. In the presentation about the dissertation, I went through certain areas that you might have dealt with again in the methodology class. Algerian connection. Okay. So I'm sure you are starting to talk about certain issues in the presentation in the methodology class, and I don't want to go through the same thing over and over, especially that now you are also having the methodology class. So first of all, sorry, just waiting for presentation to appear. Do you all see the presentation? Do you all see the presentation here? If no? No, nobody does. Okay, I will see. Ah, yes. Okay. Yes. How about now? Can you see it now, please? No? How about now? Is it okay now? Can you see the presentation now, please? So now, yeah, okay. So, oh, good. I complicated things for myself by using OBS Studio. Briefly, we go through certain points, major points of the presentation, which is the first part of our syllabus, if you remember. So the research paper, I don't know if you have, I'm sure none of you perhaps have written any research paper before, but before we start, what are the expectations? What are your questions? Or what do you think the research paper, the dissertation, the master dissertation, the nature, what is the nature of the master dissertation that you are going to write? So this is a question that you have to always keep in mind. So what distinguishes the what distinguishes the master dissertation from other pieces of writing that you have dealt with before? For example, if some of you wrote, you don't see anything? Do you all see the presentation? If you don't see the presentation, check the settings of your application or in the browser. Maybe you are visualizing the camera, so do not visualize the camera, but visualize the presentation. But anyway, in either case, I am recording this session. I am using OBS Studio to record this session. In the future, I will upload it very much the same like the course of last time, which I recorded in class in real time. Anyway, so one of the major questions you might be asking yourselves at the time is, what kind of paper am I expected to write? So this is the final product. Is the voice clear? Is the voice clear? Ah, good. So there are two major questions which we will try to answer in the course. The two major questions are first, what is or what distinguishes, what are the aspects that distinguish a research paper that I'm going to write, this master dissertation that I'm going to write from other pieces of writing. So this deals with the final product of the dissertation. What do we mean by product? It's the final outcome of the work, the research you are going to make. So it's very much like when you are producing something in a factory or in a lab. Ask yourself the question: what final product am I supposed to? What is the final product that I'm supposed to reach or to make after I finish the process? So this is the product. And second, the second question is about the process. The process. So there is the product and there is the process. What is the difference between product and process? The product is a final result, final outcome, whereas the process is the people keep coming in. I wish you you'd come all at the same time. Anyway, so we said there are two sides to the writing of the research paper. There is the final product, and there is the process by which you get to the final product. I will ask you a question. I hope you answer in the chat. Some of you. What is more important for us? Is it the final product or is it the process? Or in another way, should you focus on the final product on what the final product should look like, and what elements compose this final product? Or should you give more attention and more focus to the process? The process. So process, product, both. Yeah, both. It's the Algerian way of doing things. We always like saying it's. There are the safest questions or the safest answers that Algerians give to most questions is neither this nor that, or both this and that. So it's safe to keep a middle position or to remain neutral. And I don't think it's a good way of answering, especially at this level. You should take position. So I think the final product, because the process is reflected in the final product, I think the process lead to a final product. I think the tutor, if the element in the process, yeah. So I think the majority thinks it's both product and process. But there are two approaches. There are actually two approaches to doing things like this. The first one is a product-based approach, and the second one is a process-based approach. Product-based approach in writing in general, or in teaching writing, or in learning writing, or in writing a dissertation. Product-based approach is an approach that always keeps in mind the final product. What am I supposed to accomplish in the end? Sometimes this can be done through using an example, making an example, a reference, a model, a template, if you can say so, to be followed by the student or the writer. And then the students, along the way of writing the dissertation, he or she tries to imitate or to copy or to duplicate the product. So in this method, you are more focused on satisfying a certain model or a certain template or a certain way of doing things that has already been established by other people, or you are trying to imitate someone who has already written a dissertation or a research paper. There is nothing wrong in this approach in itself, because the dissertation you're going to write is going to answer or to respond to certain criteria, certain requirements or recommendations that have been set by the academic community to which you belong. It can be the academic community, the large one, or it can be the specific community connected to specialty or the curriculum you are studying. So this is when we're talking about the product. But a process-based approach is an approach that gives less attention to the product and more attention to the process. How am I supposed to reach the final product? What are the major steps? It's like saying, okay, there is a product, there is a dissertation, it has an introduction, it has a beginning, it has an abstract, it has such or such elements. But what matters for me is not this product in itself, but how to get to it. What are the stages? What are the steps? I think the best approach is to combine these two. Of course, we can say that both are important, but process at certain times, in certain contexts, especially in our context, is more important than the final product. Because the final product will only be, as one of your classmates said, the final product will only reflect the process. And if you follow, I don't know why your avatar or picture or profile picture has been taken of you while you were sleeping or pretending to be sleeping. Anyway, so I said, how do you combine I was talking about combining the two approaches. How do you combine process with product? How do you have an approach that is hybrid between process and product? First, you ask yourself questions about the requirements of the final result. Because if you have an idea of what the final result looks like, I won't say you will be aware of what the final result will be exactly. There is no way you can know that because you haven't done the research yet. So it is impossible for you to figure out an exact and an accurate idea of your final dissertation because every dissertation is different. Otherwise, if dissertations were copies or imitations or just repetitions of other papers, then there would be no need for writing the dissertation in the first place. So keep in mind that there is, as far as the final product is concerned, there are certain basic elements or necessary elements that have to be there, so this helps you follow an efficient and the right process. So if you have an idea. So keep in mind that this research paper you are going to write has different two major types of aspects or elements. The technical aspects. There is first the technical aspects. What do you mean by technical aspects? The aspects that have little to do with intellectual processes and more to do with technicalities and mechanics like the format, the font size, the title, the organization of pages. So let us agree that these technicalities are necessary, important. You have to respect them. If you are told that there is a certain number of pages that you have to respect, this technicality is important, even though it in itself it does not reflect the effort and the analysis you are going to make in the paper. But let us also agree that this is something we should take for granted. Let us agree that when you discuss these elements, they are going to be of secondary importance. Why? Because you can manage them on your own. You can learn and apply these technicalities on your own. The second type of requirements is the academic and the intellectual side of the paper. So I'm writing a dissertation. First of all, what kind of topics? You can ask, even though I don't like limiting the students' choices about the types of topics they deal with. We always encourage students to come up with original topics, original perspectives, original ideas, issues that perhaps had been or have been neglected for some time. I can give you an example. I like from time to time using examples. In 2 years ago, there was a research paper. So the examples I'm telling you, I was either a jury member or a supervisor. It doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm mentioning students anonymously. So an example. So there was a student who dealt with Native American literature. I will ask you a question. Have you ever read or heard about any research paper in our department that dealt with Native American literature or Native American art? I don't think so. And I personally did not. So it isn't a good idea to tell the student that this topic is difficult or is new or no one has written about it before, so you're not going to find much. On the contrary, we will encourage students to deal with this kind of topics. Another one, also recently, the same year, I think, dealt with science fiction. And most of the time, what the literary research is done is most of the time done about romantic, realistic literature, sometimes fantasy, but very little is done about science fiction, except such figures as George Orwell or other prominent science fiction writers, but not from the perspective of science fiction. So think of these two examples of topics that are not necessarily common topics, but they are relevant because they are related to literature, they are related to American studies, or even if they are related to British studies. A third example, I can give you a third example of last year. I was I was surprised, and I was also satisfied in the end to find out that the student took the topic from an intellectual and academic perspective. Think of the Hooligans, for instance. Can anyone think of the Hooligans as a topic that can be dealt with in a research paper, in a master dissertation? You might think, oh, what does this have to do with writing a research paper? You might say it's silly. It's a topic for a YouTube video, for a Facebook article, but not for a dissertation. You might say so. I personally, at the beginning, was worried that the student would just rehearse what he has seen on YouTube or what he read in articles. But I found out that the student dealt with the issue from a very academic perspective, looking at this issue of hooligans, violence, in terms of its impact on British politics, on the British society, on the actions of the Conservative Party and Margaret Thatcher, and also from the economic perspective. Look at the hooligans, for instance, and the presence of violence and such behavior in stadiums as an indicator of certain social phenomena like class struggle, and so on. You might say, why? Because when you say hooligans, you are talking about soccer as a sport being a sport for the masses. Then after a while, it has become a middle class activity. Nowadays in Europe, or in most European countries, soccer is not just a sport, it is also social act, if we can say so. It's an economic activity. So you see, the examples I'm using are there to indicate that, tell you that expectations, when you ask yourself, what kind of topics am I expected to write about? Or what topics or what themes am I expected to write about? So maybe this question shouldn't bother you as much as the relevance. Whenever you want to deal with a certain topic and you find it interesting, the question is, how can I make it relevant to my curriculum? Because we are expecting you to write about academic topics that can be put under a certain big heading in one of the four major studies: American literature, American civilization, British literature, and British civilization. Or we can say American studies, British studies, if you want to put things geographically. We can also put them thematically by saying literary studies, literary American and British studies, and civilization studies. The divisions are not important. What matters is that your topic, you have to make it fit into the curriculum, into the expectations of the curriculum in terms of relevance. So if you start by saying my final product, my dissertation, my research paper, one of the elements of my research paper, or the main element of my research paper, which is the topic, has to fit into the field of American and British studies, then it already gives you an idea of where to look for topics or where to dig, if we can say so. Uh, however, if we just think of the final product as being such, we might dismiss a lot of topics that might, at the beginning, look like irrelevant or look like dangerous. I give you 3 examples: science fiction, Hooligans, and Native American literature. So if you say, oh, we didn't study these things in class, maybe my final dissertation is not going to fit because these are things that do not fit into any of the syllabi or syllabuses, so I won't deal with it. So this is a wrong practice, because you are focusing too much on the final product. But if you say my final product has to fit into the topic, has to fit into the curriculum, even if you at the beginning find a topic that looks strange or difficult or irrelevant, you might transform it into a very relevant and very interesting topic. Okay, so also the final product that you are supposed to write has to present an original perspective. What do you mean by an original perspective? We mean that sometimes you have an issue that has been talked about by many other people, and if you want to write about it, you do not want to come up with a repetition of what people have previously said. Yes, Ms. Derwish, the difficulty culminates in which theory is applicable on those original topics. All right, we have opened a parenthesis here. Related to the final product, the expectations that the academic community, including teachers, jury members, or the teaching community of the Master in Literature, the teaching community of the English department, or even the teaching community, the academic community as a whole. One of the expectations is this theory, the use of theoretical or framework, theory or an approach. A question. Just answer yes or no. How many of you, or do you think of this idea of theory, having a theory or an approach, as an obligation that has to be there because the final product, here we're talking about product and process, because the final product is required to include this part. The design, it's like making a design. Imagine you're making a design in a car company, and they tell you that this car has to have an air conditioner. And for you, designing the air conditioner is difficult, but you try to force yourself to make it into the design, to put it into the design, because the car company's management is asking you to do so. So you don't like it, it's abstract, it's difficult, and it's boring, and but you say, okay, I'm going to put it there, to put the air conditioner there, because the car company wants it, because the final product I am trying to reach is required to include it. Do you deal with theory? I'm sure many of you do, but do you deal with theory, this idea of having a theory in a research paper in this way? The academic community, my teachers, want me to put theory there. It is an obligation. It is part of the final product. Here we're talking about product-based approach. It isn't the final product. Then I have to make it there. No, it's more than mere accessory. Good. More answers, please. No. Good. Yes and no. It's more we've ever heard of other versions of the final product. It's more that I think it would add more value to the final product No. It's what makes it academic, I guess. Karushi, Miss Karushi, I agree with you to some extent, yes. But why? We have been told that this is necessary for the chapter analysis. Interesting. It's like answering yes, but in a diplomatic or an indirect way, Ms. Malik, isn't it? I think I should show you the... Anyway. I will tell you why the theory, between quotation marks, or the framework chapter. I think we can only use theories when we deal with literary topics. Amirati Tuh. Okay, this is a parenthesis that has to be opened and then closed. I think it's more necessary for literature, but not civilization. Oh my God. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Theory goes hand in hand. We might have not paid attention to them before, but we've been always using in a way or another. Yeah. So I think I will show you. You can see the comments. You can all see the comments. Sorry, the chat. I forgot. So Ms. Rajam, we've been always using it one way or another. Yeah, perhaps. Because theories try to explain something, we need to use them to explain our thesis or to counter-argue theory. I think it's more academic to use a theory. Well, luckily, you all have an idea that theory is not just there for decoration. But then what is the point of having theory? If it is required in the final product, does it have anything to do with rely too much on theories? I have two things to clarify. The first one is that this notion of theory being related to literary studies or being more connected to literary studies is a very big, dangerous, serious misconception. I repeat. And if any of you are interested in doing research in civilization, genuinely interested in doing research in civilization, and are hesitating simply because they think that there is no theory to be applied in civilization studies, or that the theories we are studying do not apply to civilization studies, I tell you, you should stop thinking in this way. If there is anyone who is genuinely interested in doing research about civilization and worried just about this idea, theory, please say it. Is there anyone who thinks in this way? Because I read 2 or 3 comments that say theory is more related to literature than civilization. How many of you disagree? Nina, Rudi, okay. You can, Ms. Rudin, you can activate your microphone. Yes.
Hello?
Hi, how are you?
Is there somebody here?
Sorry?
Hi, fine, thanks. And you?
Not bad. So yeah. Activate the mic, please. Yes? Go ahead.
Yes, it's activated here?
Yeah, it is.
Yes, I'm interested in dealing with topic concerning British civilization, but I don't think that I will have difficulties in the process itself, in how to deal with the thesis or but I will have difficulties to go on in it. So,
You don't think you have difficulties?
if there are, just clarify.
Yeah, yeah.
In what way we will have problems with a topic in civilization?
Uh, so can you repeat? Is it a question or a comment? No, I don't know if it is a question or a comment.
Yes, it's a question. I told you that I'm interested in dealing with a topic in British civilization.
Yeah.
But I haven't yet an idea that I will find difficulties in doing this. So if there is something to clarify,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I will clarify. So, yeah. What I was saying is, what I'm saying is, there are some students who have been told. I see from the comments. I see from the comments that some of you say said. I don't blame them. Okay. I'm not saying it's a it's a crime, but we have to fix this issue. There are some students who claim that theories apply only to literature. I don't know where this. I think I have an idea of where this comes from. I think this comes from three or four, two or three major sources. The first one is you have studied literary theories, literary criticism in third year, and you are studying it again this year there's a module called literary theory and critical theory also. So there is no civilization theory, or there is no critical theories in civilization. This is a big gap. Students think that there is a big gap because we only have theories in literature. And I will tell you, when I was a student in Magister, we didn't even have literary theory, so we had no theory at all, not in civilization, not in literature, and we had to figure out things by ourselves. Now, you are lucky to have at least critical theory in literature. This is first thing. And second, there are perhaps some, I don't know, some people, some previous students who promote this idea, who say, look, I wanted to do civilization, but I changed my mind. I did literature because I did not find any theory to apply in civilization, and because we did not study theory in civilization. And I think this is a misconception, big misconception, because first, there is no ready-made theory or set of theories for all topics. Even those theories you are studying in literary studies, they might be of no use to you if you are dealing with certain topics to which those theories do not apply, or certain research questions to which those theories do not apply. So first, even the theories you are studying are not the only ones that exist in literature. There are a lot of theories that exist. And some, as I said, sometimes those theories themselves do not serve you in certain topics, not in all topics. This is one thing. And second,
can I ask a question, please?
I'll finish and then I will give you the floor. Second, even those approaches, when you say critical approaches, well, we are dealing with them from the perspective of literary studies, but the same approaches, the same critical approaches can be used to study civilization. I will give you an example. You might be, there is a type of critical approaches which is based on ideology. For instance, feminism. Feminism is based on the ideology of feminism, feminist criticism, sorry. Marxist criticism is based on the ideology, on the Marxist ideology. So are you following? I hope you're following with these two examples. I'm not a teacher of literary theory. I'm not going to get into the details, but I'm just mentioning these examples. Now, I'll ask you a question. You can use, I'm sure you have an idea at least, of how to use a Marxist or a feminist approach to study literary work. But these two same, I'm just using an example, okay? The same approaches can be used to study, for example, in civilization, to do discourse analysis, to study discourse, political discourse. In civilization, you might study discourse, and discourse, which is not always literature. Not all discourse is literature. It can be political discourse, it can be speeches, it can be, for instance, what is the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, legislation. Think of 19th century America, for instance, and you can think of legislation, the laws issued by the states or by the government of the United States, the central government. You can also think about it in terms of laws issued in Britain, for instance, in the same era, or in Victorian Britain, laws issued in Victorian Britain. These laws, these discourses, whether they are political, judicial, or otherwise, they are not literature. They are not necessarily literature, and they are not considered as literature. They are not fiction. They are not drama. They are not poetry. They are not prose. They are real discourse, real rhetorics, and you can use Marxist or feminist approaches to analyze those types of discourses. This is just a very obvious example. Why am I using discourse? Because discourse in history or in civilization studies is the closest thing you can get to literature. When you think of civilization and try to find something in civilization that looks like literature, usually think of discourse, whether that discourse is written or spoken. So what do we have here? We have, you can take many examples of laws, of legislations, and study them from a Marxist approach or from a feminist approach. From a Marxist approach in terms of using the terminology of class dynamics, class struggle, the idea that these laws favor one class over the other. They are issued by the capitalist class who is controlling the government in order to what should I say, in order to maintain their economic power and so on. So you have Marxist criticism, which is usually associated with studying literature, is used to study discourse, to study laws, to study speeches, rhetoric, and so on. The same thing can apply to feminism. You can take laws in 19th century America or even in 20th century America. These laws can be related to marriage, they can be related to politics, to voting rights, and so on. And you try to analyze them starting from the perspective of feminism. So you have feminist criticism being applied to judicial, legislative, political discourse, or speeches, or whatever. They can also be applied to, not necessarily to discourse, but to a certain situation. Okay. Are these examples clear? Do you understand now that that even when you say literary criticism or critical approaches, this does not mean that these approaches are only applied to literature. They can also be applied to the study, to civilization studies. The difference is the subject matter, the raw material. In literary studies, the raw material is fiction. It is literary work. Whereas in civilization studies, your raw material, your primary sources, keep in mind that the major difference between literary and non-literary studies is in the primary sources, in the raw material, in the corpus, if we can call it so, of your research. Does this answer some of the questions related to this issue, theory and the study of civilization especially? There is someone who wanted to take the floor after Ms. Rudin. I don't know who it is. I can't see everybody at the same time. So in the messages, someone wanted to take the floor, Lalawi, or who was it? Anyway, Ms. Rudin, go ahead, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So I want to ask, what is the alternative to get a good process and to to win at the end. This is the aim of everybody of us.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but I will ask you. Have I? Yeah, yeah, yes. Go ahead. Nothing is easy, of course.
Do you agree with me?
Sorry, can you repeat, please?
Uh,
Nothing is easy. Nothing is easy, you said.
yes, nothing is easy, even simple things. So if we deal with the literary work or with civilization,
Yeah,
you and me.
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So we have two different products.
Hmm.
This is what you mean, huh?
Listen. Every product, every final product, whatever it is, whatever the topic is, whatever the specialty is, every final product is going to have certain elements that are similar to the whole to all the research papers. For example, every research paper has an abstract, has a title page, has an acknowledgements page, contents page, introduction, conclusion. There are certain elements that have to appear in every research paper. Every research paper should have, I would say, perhaps must, I don't know, but should have a combination of theory and analysis, a combination of common. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So all research papers agree on this issue. Yeah. But sorry, let me finish. But every topic is specific. Every topic is particular. It's not only literary topics are different from civilization topics. This is not the only difference. Even inside civilization studies, there are different ways of doing civilization studies. There are different ways of doing literature studies. But let me just draw your attention to something, okay? Before we forget it. Nowadays, or recently, or the current tendency, if we can say so, is the recognition that there is no specialty, there is no field of research that can stand on its own independently, separately from other fields. There is interdisciplinarity. What is interdisciplinarity? It is the interdependence between different disciplines, between different subject areas. Sometimes you are doing a literature studies, and at the same time you are referring to history. You are doing literature studies, you are referring to psychology, for example, psychoanalysis, sociology, you are studying sociology, philosophy. In literary studies, sometimes philosophical studies, the results of philosophical studies or theories are used very often in literary studies and even in civilization studies. So even if you're doing a specific type of study, literature or civilization, you are going to be obliged to refer to other subjects. For example, when you are doing a psychoanalytical study of a literary work, you are referring at the same time to the literary production and to the findings, or to the theories, I would say, the theories of psychoanalysis. So you have psychology and you have literature. There is an interdependence between the two. A psychologist, on the other hand, it is possible to do things the other way. A psychologist might do a study of a person through his or her writing. You might have psychologists interested in analyzing the personality of a certain writer after his or her death, or even during his or her life, through their writings. They analyze the writing of such a person and try to find out about his or her psychology, about personality. For instance, you might say such a person is is a racist, is a white supremacist, or is arrogant, or is a person who suffered a lot from psychological breakdowns, because this appears through his writing. So what are you doing here? You're doing psychological study using literature. You can do literary study using psychology. So always keep in mind that two things. The first one is focus. You have to know what your focus is. If you're doing a literary study, keep in mind that you are focusing on the literary production and then making the link with other areas. If you are doing a civilization study, then you ask yourself, what is my focus? And then the other things you study, the other disciplines, are there to help you understand or analyze the topic in question. Okay, so maybe we can come back. I will, Ms. Rudin, I will apologize for not carrying on this topic. Maybe we can come back to it another time. Is Malik, you can take the floor. I'm sorry for making you wait. Yes.
Yeah, hello. I just wanted to ask you.
Yes.
When you mentioned in psychoanalysis, can we use two psychoanalytic theories? Can we use two?
All right.
Or should we only use one?
Okay, I will answer this question in a rather vague way, because I have to, and I will tell you why. Try to get rid of numbers, talking about numbers when you are talking about analysis. How many theories should I use? The question is not how many theories should I use. The question, or how many theories can I use? The question is how many concepts or how many approaches or theoretical elements do I need for answering my research question? Okay, Ms. Malik, are you with me? Malik, Amira, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I will repeat. So okay, if you, okay, if you have, can you switch off your mic temporarily? Okay, temporarily, please. Yeah, thank you. To avoid any overlap. So I was saying, try to avoid asking yourselves these questions. How many theories should I use? How many concepts should I use? How many approaches should I use? The question is, I have, there is a process. Here's why it is important to go back to the process. And think about this. Any theory or theoretical approaches or terminology or concepts that will appear in your final product are not there randomly. They are not there for decoration, as you have all, I think you all agree. But they are there because you have used them as a starting point. So the question is not what theory should appear in my final product, because the theory or the theories, if there is more than one, that will appear in a final product have to do with they have to do with the research itself, with just a minute. I'm trying to fix my webcam issue. I hope I can do this. Not yet, anyway. So I was saying that the any theoretical framework or approach that appears in the final product is just a reflection of the process. It means that if theory X or Y appears in my research paper, it means that from my starting point, from my research process, when I did the research, I used that theory as my background, as my conceptual, contextual, or theoretical background. Okay? Now, the importance of theory, maybe some of your classmates have already mentioned this. The importance of theory does not lie in the fact that it is needed, it has to be there. It is important to think of it because you are doing research in certain field or in certain fields, in a certain field of study. When I say field, I don't only mean British studies, American studies, and I don't mean literature or history. These are vague subject areas. But the specific field, for instance, you want to study literary work of a certain writer in terms of the rhetoric. You want to do a rhetorical study, rhetorical criticism. So here you are dealing with the field of studying rhetoric or studying discourse, okay? You might be studying the characters from the psychological or psychological phenomenon as portrayed by a certain writer. So here you are in the field of psychological study, okay? So whatever subject area, whatever focus you are going, whatever direction you are taking, this is the one that will dictate what kind of theory or how many theories or theoretical approaches you will need. I try to put things in a clearer way. Imagine you are studying the writings of Shakespeare, okay? You're studying the writings of Shakespeare, and you want to find out. Shakespeare's attitude towards women through studying his characters. I repeat, you want to analyze Shakespeare's attitude towards women through studying some or one of his female protagonists. And if you are dealing with this, you might say, okay, what is my purpose here? What is my objective? My objective is to do a certain study related to gender roles, to the status of women in society, to the attitude of intellectuals, because Shakespeare was an intellectual, regardless of all the theories about who Shakespeare was. So Shakespeare was an intellectual. You might say, I'm going to study the common attitude among intellectuals about women and about the place of women in society, about the relationship between men and women in society. So here, your research question or your research objective or the orientation of your research will perhaps, I'm saying perhaps, not necessarily, will perhaps require you to take as your starting point feminist criticism. It might be feminist criticism, okay? Or even perhaps rhetorical criticism. Why these two? Why am I mentioning these two? I'm not suggesting anything, but I'm saying there are possibilities. So there is rhetorical criticism as a theoretical or critical approach. There is feminist criticism. These two might fit in this situation, in this imaginary situation, because the objective of your research or the research question or the orientation of your research requires it. So when you say theory, it's not just there to make it fit into certain topics, but theory is a necessary starting point for analyzing a certain topic in a certain way. Because you are not an expert on feminism, you're not an expert on gender relations, especially in Western society, because we are perhaps our being Algerian makes us a bit different from Western societies to which Shakespeare belongs. So you cannot simply start talking about gender relations without the necessary terminology, without the necessary assumptions or theoretical background, because you're not an expert. You are a researcher. And you are building on what other people have done before you. So what do? You say, okay, I'm going to look at feminist criticism, the tools they use, the terminology they use, the concepts they use in the analysis, and I'm going to use them in my analysis. Why? Because my analysis requires it. So theory is like a theory or an approach or the framework is like a safety net, if we can say so. You're not an expert. You need tools made by other people who came before you, by other researchers. Look at the same issue, but rhetorical criticism. For example, you're not just interested in the issue from this gender relations aspect, but you're interested in Shakespeare's attitude towards women as a kind of rhetoric. You are more interested in the rhetoric he uses, not in his position. You can say, okay, I have an idea of what his position is towards women, but I'm more interested in the way he presents this idea or his argument or his view about women through the characters, through female characters, dialogue between female characters, dialogue between female and male characters, through the plot. You can say that most, this is just an assumption, all right? It might not be true. But most his female characters, even those who succeed, even those who are considered as protagonists and heroines, are always in need of a male to support them, for example. Okay, so you're interested in this case. You're interested in the rhetoric. You don't care about the gender roles or relations, but you care more about how he presents his attitude towards gender roles. So I will recapitulate. Perhaps some of you did not grasp this idea. I will recapitulate by saying that theory is not something you start with. It's something that comes in the process of research. And it appears in the final product because you want to tell your reader, this is my starting point. And you also want to tell your reader, listen, this research is about rhetoric. It's about rhetorical analysis, or this research is about gender roles, is about feminist attitudes, or about women's role in society. And in order for you, the reader, to understand my analysis, you need to understand certain concepts, certain terminology, certain theories, certain assumptions. So the ones that I use in my research. So this is why it is important to think about a theory or an approach at the beginning of your research. There are some students who, I don't blame them because the panic, because the time. Some students do the following. They do the research, they finish it. And then when they finish, when they start typing the final product, they start asking themselves or their supervisors or previous students this question. Hey, look, this is my topic, this is my research. What theory fits into my topic? Can you give me a theory? There are some students who do this. I repeat, they do the research, they finish, they have the final product almost ready. Then they start thinking, oh, what approach fits into my research? And this is wrong, because the question is, if you didn't follow any approach or any theory, how did you do the research in the first place? You are you claiming that you, as a master student, are able to go to the research field on your own without relying on any terminology, any concepts, or any assumptions or theories? This looks like kind of academic arrogance. For academic modesty and for also having something that is well-founded, we need a theory. So the theory is something you start with. It's not something you finish with. It's not just in the final product. It's in the process. Ms. Malik, please give me your feedback about what I've been saying, just to see if you have understood. And I think this might apply to the rest of your classmates. Ms. Malik, can you take the floor and tell me if I have answered your question? Or was it so boring that you slept immediately? Anyway, please in the chat. Did this what I've been just saying? Did it answer the question about theory, or at least part of the question. We are going to, we might come back to it at another time, but. Hello. Oh, sorry. I didn't scroll. I did not scroll through the chat. Yeah, sorry. I forgot to scroll through the chat. I thought nobody was responding. Sorry. Okay, so part of it. Yes. Anyway, we're not answering everything about. Yeah, trying to fix my microphone. Okay. Yeah, okay, now I can hear you. Sorry.
I understood that you can focus on the number of theories, and that the theory helps us to analyze a topic in a certain way, and it is the starting point for the reader to understand how how shall I say, work on my topic.
Yes. Okay.
Like this.
Yeah. I would say, listen. I would like you now, from now on, to think not in terms of topic, because topic is just a starting point. To think in terms of research question. Is it clear? Research question. Now, why? What is the difference? I will tell you. I will give you a difference. Can we go back to the example of Shakespeare? So let us say Shakespeare's attitude towards women. All right. You can deal with it from two perspectives, or you can be interested in two aspects of this Shakespearean attitude towards women. The first one being focused on gender relations and gender as an issue. So you're interested in Shakespeare and gender roles. Okay, is that clear? Yeah. Okay, and you can look at it from another perspective. It's the same topic, but another research question or another orientation of your topic, which is, you say, okay, I think I know about Shakespeare's attitude towards women. I don't really want to find out. I have an idea. Some people have done the research and they came up with a thesis, and I agree with it. But I am more interested in not in the view itself, but in the rhetorical tools he uses in his presentation of this view. So here, it is the same topic, but not the same research question. The first research question was, what is this attitude? How does Shakespeare think about gender roles? The second research question is not how does he think of gender roles, but how does he present his attitude? How does he put it in through rhetorical tools in his drama, in his plays, because Shakespeare was a playwright in the first place, or maybe in poetry, in his sonnets. Okay. So before you start thinking of theory, ask yourself the question: what is my objective? What is my research question? I will give you anecdote, or I will give you the type of answers. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
For example, I want to work on a novel, and this kid is dreaming. He has an issue. For example, he dreams that a monster would come and grab him, for example. Now, if I want to use a psychoanalytic theory, I can use Freud about dreams to analyze it from this perspective. And it actually has gone through a traumatic experience. So I can use another psychoanalytical theory. So can I combine both to analyze this child's psychology?
So what do you have? You have two assumptions made by psychoanalysis. Yeah, sorry?
He is facing two issues.
The first one being trauma.
The first one being, yes, he had gone through trauma, and the second one, he dreams that because his mother is going through a lot, she's sick and she's going to die. So in his dream, he dreams that he is letting her go. He wants her to die. So can I analyze it from this perspective of Freud, only analyzing the dream, or should I also combine the trauma he is going through? Can I analyze it from these two perspectives, or can I only analyze only one perspective?
All right. So I will ask you the question. You have talked about two things related to psychology, psychoanalysis, and you said two psychoanalytical theories. Now I will ask you a question. What is a theory? What is a theory?
Theory is the one that I will use to analyze.
No. I'm asking you, what do you understand by the word theory? I saw someone who said, theory is an explanation of facts related to each other in the research. Okay, yes, I believe an approach is part of theory. All right. I see. Theory is an explanation of how. Yeah, well, how or why. Theory is like Freud's psychological approach. Yeah, because maybe we should stop for a while and think. We will finish the session with this Ms. Malik. Okay, maybe when when I explain this to you, and you try to reconsider what you have said to me, maybe you will by yourself find the answer to your own question. Okay. So first of all, what you have mentioned, I think, are not two theories, psychoanalytical theories. I think there are two psychoanalytical assumptions, or two assumptions by psychoanalytical theory. So there is theory, there is approach, there is methodology. Maybe these three terms have to be distinguished from one another. A theory, Malik, is a set of assumptions about a certain issue or phenomenon or whatever. But it is a set of assumptions about life, about knowledge, about existence, about science, about a scientific phenomenon, about social phenomenon. There are many types of theories, but in general, when you say theory, it is a set of assumptions. It means it isn't just one. It isn't just one assumption. It is a set of assumptions that can be put together to express or to represent one common attitude towards a certain issue. Okay, you can. This is the basic definition. You can extend this definition by saying, as your classmate is saying, is to explain something. Yeah, okay. You can talk about the purpose of theory, about the function of theory, but in general, a theory is a set of assumptions, a group of assumptions that can be put together under one heading. When you say feminist theory, or even feminist ideology, it is not just one assumption. It does not make one assumption. It makes a lot of assumptions about gender roles and gender issues and so on. One assumption might be that women have been oppressed throughout history. Second one, the assumption that women should be given the same rights as men. Third assumption might be that men usually, male-dominated societies usually try to portray stereotypes about women. So what do we have here? These are different assumptions that come from the same theory. So one theory is not just a theory, is not just one assumption about a certain issue, but it's a set of assumptions. But even these assumptions, even if these assumptions are different, they can all be put together under one heading to represent a certain stance or a certain attitude. Marxism, for instance, you can talk about the Marxist theory as having many assumptions related to the issue of class in society, or social class. One of the assumptions might be that capitalists always try to exploit the working classes. A second assumption might be that the working classes have to use whatever means they have to guarantee an equal position to capitalists. A third one might be that the ruling, the government and the capitalist class are always conspiring to keep workers under control. So what do you have? You have 3 or 4 or many assumptions, claims that can all be put together under one heading called Marxism, or you can talk about socialism, you can talk about communism. There are nuances, differences between the three, but they all have to deal with class struggle. Liberalism, I'll give you another example. Liberalism. Liberalism is a theory that is based on certain assumptions, and I'm sure you can go back to Locke and to the French Enlightenment. Okay, so for instance, you can say liberalism as a theory has a set of assumptions related to the relationship between people, individuals in the society, individuals and government. One of the assumptions is that governments should be at the service of the governed, not vice versa. Government should be by consent. The government should not control the governed without their consent, which leads us to elections and voting. So you see here, it's called a theory, but it is not based on one assumption. It's based on different assumptions. Okay, so this is as far as theory is concerned, briefly speaking. I'm sure my colleagues in the 2 other modules, methodology and literary criticism or literary theory, will give you more details about this. Second, the approach. Well, what is the difference between theory and approach? Okay, can anyone tell me the theory and approach, the difference between a theory and an approach? In the chat, please, anyone? Aren't they the same thing? No, definitely not. An approach is part of a theory. This Ms. Yunga, this is close to what I was going to say, but not exactly. Is an approach on how gains facts. Approach is more specific, maybe. Approach is part of theory. Aren't they the same? Hussam? No, they're not. An approach is one assumption. Ms. Duati, I disagree with you. An approach is not really an assumption. Okay, a theory is a set of assumptions, and you can say you can build a theory around one assumption. Okay, the theory does not have to have thousands of assumptions, but it usually does. It usually has many assumptions. Theory is how facts related. Approach are practical side of theory. Abdurrahman, to some extent, one assumption is developed into approach. Approach is methodology. Okay, methodology can be part of the approach, but approach is usually not just a methodology. It's more than that. So an approach can deal with many assumptions. Approach is like the perspective. Yeah, but more. Okay, I will ask you to. I think we have sufficient answers now. I think I have an idea of what you think of approach. The approach is just look at the word approach. How to approach something. You are far from something, and then you get close to it. This is the physical analogy. Or there is an issue. You didn't start talking about it yet, and then you want to start discussing it. You want to approach it. You want to tackle it. The question is, from what side? From what side am I? Think of a cake. Think of a big cake, and say an approach is a stance to adopt. Yeah, close. The way of dealing with assumptions. Process for which you obtain those assumptions. I will give you my explanation, and then you see if we if you agree. Okay. An approach, as I said, is a position from which you start tackling something. Let us imagine you are going to the University of Buzrea. Okay, this is your let us say this it's like a topic. Okay, let's say it's like a topic, and theory is your starting point. Theory is your starting point. You are in Clerval. Another person is in Air de France. Third one is in Shrega, for instance. And you can think of other examples. So there are three people. There is one in Air de France. There is one in Clerval, or Chevalier. Let's say Chevalier. And there is another one in, let's say, in Brimsus, okay? For example, in Brimsus. So let us say these three points are like the starting point, okay? I hope you are following the analogy. Each one of these three will go to the same place, to Buzrea, which might be compared to a topic, using a different means of transportation, because they come from different areas. One of them might go on foot, because there is no transportation from Air de France to the university. So you can just walk to the university, because it's not far, and it is not there's no transportation there, except if you want to take a taxi, if you are lazy, or if you can't walk. But anyway, there's another one who comes from Shrega, who takes the bus perhaps, or a taxi. A third one who comes from Chevalier, who decides he or she would take the train. Let's imagine there is a train from Chevalier to the University of Buzrea. So you see here, there are different positions. You're getting to the same topic, the university, but from different positions. So each will use a different approach, if we can say so. This is very similar to approach. And the relationship between approach and theory is that approach is I wouldn't say approach is the practical side of theory, and stop there. Le Bourg, you said theory is the idea, approach is the practical way of it. I don't know. I'm going to give you my explanation and give my argument, and then we finish the session. Approach is not just the practical side of theory, and then you stop. Approach is the implementation, when you talk about approach, is the implementation of a certain theory, if we can say so, on a certain research question. Applying a certain theory to a certain research question or research objective. I wouldn't say topic. Why wouldn't I say topic? I would tell you why. For instance, let us say as a topic, okay, just imaginary, Jane Austen's female characters, Jane Austen's female characters, or female character. Let's say this is a topic. We didn't talk about the research question yet. If you think only about the topic, you say, the theory that fits into this topic is feminist criticism, because we are talking about Jane Austen's female characters. Ms. Malek, in the comments, can you tell me whether this sounds logical to you, or this makes sense? I repeat. You tell someone, hey, I want to do research about Jane Austen's portrayal of female characters. And you say, okay, feminist criticism is this should be the starting point, because we're dealing with female characters. Does this make sense? At least on the surface. Yes, I understood the difference between theory and approach. Okay, I just answer my last question. I will repeat. Okay, I said, if someone tells you, I want to deal with my topic, they tell you this is my topic. They don't tell you the research question. All right, they say my topic is around or focuses on Jane Austen's female characters or portrayal of female characters. Do you say, oh, then it is feminist criticism automatically? Does it make sense? Is this what you would say? The other ones? Oh, yeah, okay. Yes. Yes, it does. All right. Sirin Makhloufi, no. Obviously. Good. Yes. Sirin Makhloufi, why do you say no? Remember what I was saying. Yeah, feminism. Yeah. Remember what I was saying earlier. I said a theory or approach or both do not depend on your topic. They are not related to your topic. They are related to your research question. I gave you an example, a very similar example, of Shakespeare's attitude towards women and through female characters. We said that this is a topic, but I can have two research questions, or more than two, of course. But an example, as examples, we gave two. That's another problem, research question. Anyway, we gave two research questions. One of them is, what is Shakespeare's attitude towards women? The other one, how does Shakespeare portray his attitude towards women? The first one, we want to know what the attitude is. So feminism, because the research question requires it. Second one, rhetorical criticism, because the research question requires it. So if someone says, yeah, because we can deal with characters from different approaches. Yes, great. Let us go back to Jane Austen and female characters. I ask you this topic. How many questions can you ask about it? I will give you two examples. The first one is, how do female characters in Jane Austen's writing reflect the situation of women in her society? Is it clear? I repeat. How do female characters in Jane Austen's writing reflect the real situation of women in her society during her life? So here, I am less interested in gender positions and gender roles, and more interested in the realism of Jane Austen's writing. So perhaps I'm not interested in I'm not doing a feminist study. I'm doing perhaps maybe historicism or something like that. You can ask more questions about this to the people qualified for doing so. I repeat to clarify the case. Jane Austen's female characters. This is a general topic. Then my research question is, how do these female characters, how faithfully, how accurately, how authentically do they reflect women's position in the society in which Jane Austen lived? So I'm not interested in gender roles. I'm more interested in literary work, the literary work's portrayal of reality. I am interested in the realism of the literary work itself. It's like asking, is this literary work realistic, or is it an exaggeration? Okay, so I'm less interested in gender roles and more interested in the literary work itself. So my research question is not about gender roles, even though the topic, women, female characters, might look like something that would invoke feminism. Another example, I will give you another example about the same topic, another research question. How did the female protagonists in Jane Austen's writing reflect Jane Austen's personal experience? I repeat. What is the link, or to what extent do female protagonists in Jane Austen's writings reflect the writer's own personal experience? So my question here is not about gender roles. It is about the relationship between the author and the work. So the study that I might need to do here, or the approach I might need to follow here, might have nothing to do with feminism as such. Maybe it is related to biography. I am more interested in doing a biographical study than in studying gender roles. Well, the fact that she was a woman matters for her as a person, for the writer, for the writer's life, for the writer's biography, but not as a social phenomenon or as a gender role phenomenon. So I might be more interested in doing a biographical study. Even further, I might even do a psychoanalytical study. How? You might say, what is the relationship? Well, it should be feminism. You might say, yeah, biographical approach. Yeah. You might say, oh, it should be feminism because it's gender roles. But I will repeat, I said it is not the topic that decides which approach you use. It is the research question. So we have one topic, female characters in Jane Austen's writings. You might have 3 or 4 research questions related to the topic. First one, how did the portrayal of these female characters reflect the status of women in contemporary society? So here I'm interested in the realism of the writing of Jane Austen, in the literary writing as such. The second research question, how did the female protagonists in Jane Austen's writing reflect Jane Austen's own personal experience as a woman? So here we are more interested in biography. A third research question might invoke a psychoanalytical approach. For example, how did Jane Austen had certain experiences in her life that were traumatic, that caused trauma. And she expressed this trauma, or she tried to get rid of this trauma through writing. So you treat the writing as a source of psychoanalysis, as a psychological analysis of the writer. So you have the same topic, but three different approaches, because there are 3 different research questions. So it is a research question, not the topic, that dictates what theory you should use. If it is clear for everyone, I think we should stop here because it's a bit late. All right. Is this idea clear about the difference between theory and approach? And also the fact that different, especially that theory does not necessarily, theory and topic are not, yeah, okay. Maybe we can, next time we talk more about approach, but I think if you understand theory, it's good enough. Yeah, okay, Ms. Malik, yes, assumptions instead of theories. All right, so thank you all for attending, and please keep try to stay tuned, to stay in touch with the Moodle platform. And for now, because there are many students who are having problems with Moodle platform, maybe we should use Classroom more often, Google Classroom, for information until we fix the issues for everyone. All right. Thank you very much, and see you in the next meeting. If you have any questions for another discussion, I will start a discussion in perhaps a forum in Moodle or in Google Classroom as a follow-up. So maybe you can create a forum as a follow-up for today's today's session, and we can perhaps use the Moodle chat for more information. One more question about the academic email. Are we going to get any, because we need them? Academic emails. Last year, we created academic emails for some students, but this year it became impossible because Google told the management of the university that they are limiting the number of academic emails that university can create because the university did not use them before. So it's like your university does not really need academic emails because you did not create many, you just created a few. So we are going to limit your quota. I think it's impossible for getting academic emails now, Mr. Garah. Sorry for that. I don't know if last year's emails are still working. If any of you has an email of last year, try to see if it's working. If it is, you are very lucky. If it's not, then we can just use Gmail accounts. All right, good night, everybody.